So I'm going to do the weekly tarot reading. And so I'm going to talk about it just a little bit different. I am going to talk about kind of some things to kind of look forward to, election and stuff, but in a little bit different tone. What I want to kind of talk about is kind of like the spirit of things going on and how us spiritualists in this last 10 days before the election can kind of handle everything that's going on. Because people are going to be picking up the ante. They're going to get a little more ferocious. And it's going to be, people are, we can see it already. If you're on Facebook or Twitter or whatever social media, you can see people are getting feisty. I was even, I follow Marianne Williamson's page. If you don't know who she is, she's the Course in Miracles lady. And she did run as a Democrat for the presidential election. And it's like I said before, I love Marianne Williamson, but she didn't have a snowball's chance in hell of, getting the nomination. I mean, there was just no way. But I still admire her spirit that she was looking at everything that's going on. And she's got a fan base from being a spiritual leader and a spiritual teacher. And she was going to go in there and maybe try her hand at it. So I give her credit that she did. But anyway, so I was on her page today, and she did, a thing, vote for Biden or whatever. And she was getting attacked. But one of the things she was getting attacked on, and I empathize with her on this, is like, you're not being spiritual doing this. And, they're questioning her spirituality and her spiritual path. And they were just, just the attackers, the Trump supporters are just all over her. So I did a post on her page, and I just said, I can't remember who said it, but it's, the saying is, a speaker of truth has no friends. And that is true. Okay, have you ever thought of times when you went out there and you told the truth about something or spoke your mind on something, it's true, and you dealt with opposition? A speaker of truth has no friends. And then I'm like, stay strong, Marianne. Just stay strong. You're going to deal with a lot of hate. Hang in there, girl. I feel you. You're one of us. And I didn't say all that, but I just said, stay strong, Marianne. And so, of course, after that post, I have to have, a Trump supporter starting to go at me and everything like that. And I'm just like, so some of you may deal with that. Some of you may deal with that. You may be dealing with your family. You may have that uncle, who's a Trump supporter. And by the way, if you watch my channel, now I will read the cards as is, but I'm not going to hide who I'm voting for either. Okay, so if you're a Trump supporter, you may not like what you see. I'm going to be kind of like Lena Rodriguez on Tarot Down Under. You might not want to hang out here. So you could give me a thumbs down or whatever. But anyway, so you may have that crazy uncle, let me get back to that, who's a Trump supporter, who's saying all kinds of things, maybe is a QAnon type of person or whatever. And we got to kind of balance with that. And that's what I want to talk about. How do we balance with all this going on? If your family is in conflict, if your spouse is voting for someone different than you, whatever it may be. This is what I'm going to read, the nice angel deck for this one, because we're going to kind of raise the vibration on it, how we can maybe handle this. What does Spirit want you to know about how to behave? I guess that's the best way to put it. How do I behave with all this going on? And a speaker of truth has no friends. Just keep that in mind. But let's see what the cards say. Oh, yeah, let me lower it down, of course. I know you guys like it when I do that. Okay. But yeah, I felt bad for Marianne. I saw it, and it's just like, oh, this poor woman, just questioning her spirituality, as if she's not spiritual. I hate it when people put you, let me put it up real quick. I hate it when people put you to the task. If you do this or you do that, you're not being spiritual. I get real tired of it. Who became the spiritual police on Facebook, okay? Who became the spiritual police? Who are you to say I'm not spiritual? Who are you to say Marianne Williamson is not behaving spiritual? It's, and I have dealt with this, so I feel for her. But it's like, who are these people? Who are the spiritual police? Who was assigned this job? So the very first card is the Sun. So we think of this, one of the things it does say is happy outcome. Okay, so we're going to get there, guys. And this is one of the things, all you spiritualists, I want you to kind of tune in, is that it'll get there. We're going to get to the new earth. It's going to happen. It's still going to be positive. Yes, there's a lot of negative that we got to deal with, but I love that. Just like it says, happy outcome. So just try to keep that in mind. No matter what kind of negativity you see, remember that inevitably we're going to get to that new earth, right? Will we see it in our lifetime? I don't know, but will we get on the trajectory aiming that way? That looks real good for me. So that's positive. So just keep your spirits up. Now we've got the Five of Earth. Now, Five of Earth is a lot to do with worry. It is a worry card. In thought, it is called worry. So, a lot of people are really worried about what's coming, this and that. So try not to worry during this time. And as far as the other thing about the Five of Earth, it can also deal with sickness and outcasts and feeling ostracized. So you might also feel like an outcast right now, with certain people. Maybe certain people are shunning you. Maybe you have lost friends because you spoke up. But you got to be you. You got to be you, and you got to do you. So if you lose people along the way, that's okay. That's okay. You don't want to try to mold and shape yourself into a person that's just not you, with beliefs that you just don't believe in and things like that. So, you may feel like an outcast. You may have a lot of people turn on you, but you be you. You speak your truth. Now, one of the things I do have the Seven of Water. This is a big one. This is a big one going on. This card is all about illusions and delusions and not being in touch with reality. This is one of the reasons this is my addiction card as well. I see it a lot for addictions because people are trying to escape reality. So right now, a lot of people just try to keep in mind, we're all looking at the same thing, but we're seeing it differently because there's a lot of illusions being cast. There's a lot of people lying. There's a lot of people lying, and it's not just Trump, okay? There's a whole lot of people trying to cast illusions all over social media, all over the news, all over the place. So it's real important to not get caught up in these illusions during this time. Keep your wits about you, because there's a lot of people that would love to manipulate you and everyone else. So just, keep all eyes on spirit during this time. Very, very important. And don't fall for some of this hype that is going on. So this is kind of funny. I drew the Hermit. So, for some of y'all, you need to be a hermit. Get away from these people. I guess that's the best way. Isn't that funny to draw the Hermit? What I'm talking about. How do we deal with, that crazy uncle? My dad, he has a Trump sign outside of his house. I don't even want to go over for Thanksgiving. What am I going to do? Get away from these people. Take some time in solitude. Shut off the news. Shut off social media. Don't be glued to it. I did a post on it. It's in the community. They call it doom scrolling. And I couldn't believe there was a word for it. And I am just as guilty of doing that. Like, I'll be reading my news feed as a news source for some things. And I'm looking at all the terrible things that are going on, or watching news or this or that. And I finally learned, okay, I'm going to set this down. I'm going to set this down. I don't want to know what's going on. I need some peace with myself. So I know people want to know what's leading up to the election and all that. They want to be aware. But take some time. Take some time and just shut it all off and get away and just you and spirit communicate. That card fell out. Oh, a few fell out. I guess I'll use them. Now I do have the star, so I've got both the sun and the star. The light at the end of the tunnel, guys. This is what I always say this card is about. It's all about hopes. It's all about dreams. It's the light at the end of the tunnel, okay? So that is very promising for me. So all of this right now, we're kind of in a dark tunnel. And it can be hard to see the light at the end of it, I know. You know, it's like, I know some of you are like, is that a train coming? Or is it the light at the end of the tunnel? I know exactly. And so I got the star. Okay, the star is the light at the end of the tunnel. So we will get there. So just hang in there. Keep the faith. That's one thing, we can't lose faith during this time with all this chaos going on. It's so important. You know, keep the faith during this time. You know, be optimistic, be positive. It really, if, can you imagine if every light worker just got that positive vibe and raised the vibration, what we could do? You know, so let's try to do that. Just try to be as positive as possible. And I've got the Page of Fire. Now, one of the things the Page of Fire is about passion, you know, is about, you know, new endeavors and getting out there. So I know some of you are very passionate about this. I'm very passionate too. I mean, I'm going on YouTube and I'm doing these readings. Obviously, I'm passionate about tarot, spirit, and everything else. So I know many of you are very passionate during this time. But just, you know, keep your passions kind of cool. You know, don't get so passionate you get into fights with strangers online. You know what I'm saying? Even the crazy uncle, try to avoid him. You know, try to be careful with that. And that's also kind of the Two of Air. And that's kind of how I feel. We are dealing with two sides, obviously. We're about to vote, right? You know, we've got two sides and so forth. And this is the really thing. And there are some people still undecided, the Two of Air. You know, and this is what they're really picking it up. They're really, both sides, Trump and Biden, both their campaigns. They're, right now, they know there are certain people that are, you know, riding with Biden, or they're, you know, diehard Trump fans. Okay, they're not worried about them. They've got their votes. They're right now. They're going to really be picking it up all over social media. They're going to be advertising like crazy for the people that are on the fence, because the Two of Swords is especially about, I'm on the fence and I need to make a decision and I'm not sure which way to go. And some of you may still be there. You may be like, I don't know, my hands are tied. I don't know who to vote for. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. But the thing about that, just like it says, a stalemate, you know, being unable or unwilling to make a decision, that's who they're going for. So you're going to see the intensity really pick up over the next 10 days. And it's going to get crazy. And you know, people are going to be coming out and saying all kinds of stuff. So try to stay out of the fray as much as you can. You know, try to stay out of the fray. And don't let that, how do I put this? Spirit was telling me something, give me better words. I guess don't let that be what leads you to come to a certain conclusion about the outcome. That's exactly what Spirit, thank you. That what you see over the next 10 days does not necessarily mean that that's the outcome. So if you see certain things go in a certain way, because they're going to try to manipulate us, okay? You know, everybody's going to try to manipulate us. Don't worry about that. I get this card a lot when I read the politics. Is the Three of Air. The suffering. It's everything. It's not just coronavirus. So coronavirus is one of the main, really the main issue. With all the deaths and the suffering and everybody getting sick, you know, our life has completely changed. I have to wear a mask where whatever building I go into, I'm forced to wear a mask just like you guys are. I got my hair cut the other day, if anybody's noticed, and yeah, I got a mask up. We've got to take all these precautions. You got to get your temperature checked. You got to go wash your hands right when you walk in the door. So there's a lot of things that we took for granted in our life that we no longer take for granted anymore. because of what we have been going through. So we're all suffering, we're all in the same boat. Everybody is suffering. People have lost jobs, people are being threatened with eviction. They're getting evicted right now. There are people right now getting evicted. All the racial unrest, and it's so much suffering. The last several months have been so much suffering, and we just want to get to a healing place. That's the most important thing. We just want healing. We just want to get to a better place. Kids back in school, things like that. We just want it to get to a better place. So then I just drew for the environment, the high priestess. So especially, tune in, listen to the inner voice. And notice I also got the hermit too, which also is about going in. But the hermit is more especially about that wisdom and so forth. But this is especially about that little inner voice that speaks the truth as well. They're both kind of different ways. It's kind of like the wisdom in my mind, but this is kind of the wisdom in my soul here. And so really listen to that inner voice during this time to be your guide, so you don't get caught up with this. All the illusions that are cast before your eyes, because people are going to want to manipulate you all over the place. Everyone's going to try to do that. Keep eyes on spirit and listen to the inner voice. So I've got the awakening card. One of the things, and it is the hangman, look at things from a different perspective. That is especially, notice I've got high priestess and I've got the hermit, this inner, this turning in, and also look at things from a different perspective. Don't get caught up in this, right? That's what I was saying. Don't get caught up in all these illusions. If you look at things from a different perspective, you will see much more clearly. We get real stubborn and we get fixed on our beliefs and our, how we see everything. And even in the spiritual community, people can challenge each other because of who they're voting for, whether they're a good seer or not. They're going to do that. They're going to do that. And it's all ego. It's all ego. But just try to look at things from a different perspective. Don't worry about what other people think about you and so forth. It's about seeing the truth and embracing the truth. So I look at the Six of Earth, which is about giving and receiving. If you watch my one video, I talked a lot about that, about the LOA and everything. But also just with dealing with other people that may come at you, kind of look at it as, I don't have to accept your gift. This is what it reminds me of. It's making me think of the story of the Buddha. That I know exactly, Spirit, that's what you want me to tell the story. It's a really good story, I'm going to tell you. And I know that's about receiving gifts. Okay, so the Buddha, one day he's doing a sermon. He's got all the people around him, they're listening to him, and he's going on and he's speaking his truth and he's giving his wisdom and everything, and everybody's watching. But there's a heckler in the background. There's a heckler, okay? And he's being a jerk to the Buddha. He's just shooting down everything he says. Well, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. Stuff like that. He's throwing all these insults at the Buddha. But the Buddha was cool. The Buddha didn't get upset. The Buddha could not be triggered. He kept his calm. He just pretty much ignored the heckler. He continued his sermon. He was not moved whatsoever. He did not acknowledge this person, and he continued his sermon just fine. Where other people would be heavily triggered by all these insults and everything that comes at him, he was just perfect. So after the sermon, the Buddha's hanging out, and then the heckler comes up to him, and he goes to the Buddha, and he's like, I was in the audience, and I was saying terrible things to you. I was calling you names. I was cutting down everything you said. I was talking very bad about you. I was making a scene, but you never acknowledged anything I said. You never budged. You never got angry. Nothing. So the Buddha said, if someone offers you a gift and you refuse it, to whom does the gift belong? And that is, I remember hearing that story, and I'm like, that's exactly. So when you're out there over the next 10 days, and you may end up in a kerfuffle with someone, it could be the crazy uncle, right? Okay, or it could just be, all of a sudden you and your friend on Facebook that's been on there for the last 3 years, all of a sudden get into it. It's real important to control your reactions, and try to set the example. Think of the Buddha. Think of the Buddha, and he just continued his sermon. He continued his speaking, and he wasn't triggered. He didn't react in anger. He didn't start cutting down and telling the other person they were an idiot. He was completely calm. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to think of that. Just refuse their gift. That's all you got to do. All you got to do is refuse their gift. To whom does the gift belong? I hope this helps.